Hi and welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to go through the concept of relative versus absolute referencing in Excel. Some people who have even used Excel for quite a long time don't quite understand how this works, but it's an important concept and one that will help you in speeding up how you put formulas in and understanding how Excel works. So we've got a sample spreadsheet here, and you can see we've got a whole lot of figures in here, and if we wanted to sum a particular column, we'd do our sum formula, and we would do that, which is all pretty simple. You should know how that's done. And then if we drag across, we can sum across without having to enter all those values in. Now, pulling that across like that copies that formula, and it copies it relative to what that first formula is. So it uses that column there, and you can see that D and D, D8 to D13. And so when you copy, it uses the formula relative to where you are. So we've put it across one cell, so it's made that E8 and E13, and that will be F, and so forth all the way along. So that's relative. So when you copy it, it copies it relative to where you were, one cell across. Now let's say we wanted to add a tax component in. So tax is 10% of what your total is. So we'd quite easily just put a new formula in. We'd do that times our tax amount, 10%, to get 28, and then we would sum those two values to get your overall total. Now if we just pull that across, we'll see that it's not going to work, or at least not work in the way that we want it to, because when we go to this cell here, you can see that it's moved across, so it's timesing E8 by C16. It's moved it across one cell, and that's because it's trying to do it as a relative reference. So some people would add in another row and have 10% up here and then times it by that. But the easiest way to do it is to use an absolute reference. So that means we want to point to only this cell. So to do that, to make B16 an absolute reference, is we just put a $sign in front of the B. We only need to do it on the B. We could do it on the B and on the 16 if we wanted to, but we're going to stay on that same row. So you can see that's still the same. Now if we pull this across, you'll see that it works. Now it works because you see it's always pointing to the B16 value, because it's not saying, because when we pull this one across, it's saying that E15 is relative, one across, we move one across, but the B is absolute, so that's why we're staying there. We'll just pull that across for completeness. That's all still that plus that, so that's relative. So if we wanted to do our same thing on our rows, again we could do a sum, and this is relatively referenced the whole way down there. And if we wanted to do our 10% tax, again we can do our total times our 10%, B16 again, and again if we pull this down, then we're going to get zeros, because effectively it's going to compare it to those, because that's the relative reference. So you can see that's B17, and then it'll be B18 and B19. So instead of using the relative reference, we want an absolute on row 16. And so then when we pull that down, you can see it's staying on B16. Again, the full year total is those two. We can pull that down, and now we're in the fortunate position that if the tax changed, oh, that's right, we got that wrong, it's not 10%, it's only 9%. We can put 9 in there, and you see that it changes everything for us, and we only have to change it in that one place and not everywhere. Now, that's how absolute referencing works compared to relative. I hope you found that informative and understandable. Thanks. Bye.